They're all coming. We'll be angry. Alright, we're just gonna take them, but I'm not gonna wait.
You had a glass of wine and I only had
I only had one slice of garlic bread and you had three.
Yeah, I can't do it. Yeah. It's quite good actually because when we went to the Ivy, like Joe always has a drink because the meals were all very spicy. But we always just and it's just
Christians are finally allowed. So it means we have no persecution against the Christians. And then, obviously, no more smart, genius, maverick, only Jesus Christ. That's right. And if you turn yourself now behind you, you just have another step.
Miren, acá dice que este tipo de Ako lang ako. Lumayan na.
O zaman 70 yaşında herhalde. Sí.
amico acquistato a Marte.
Ci sono numeri da cliccare.我发现学生的时候，你好像不在过自己的生活，只要讲那时候自己考试课。
Bah, tant mieux qu'on n'ait pas le choix. Tant mieux qu'on n'ait pas le choix. Les gens qui disent, je vais pas, je vais pas, tu suis. Pour les fans de chat.
Piccoli edények, ilyen
was an pragmatist. Remember Julius Caesar, Shakespeare? He was accused that he wanted to become a king. He was expressive.
Além de ser uma figura prioritária,
Başka çıkmış.
Avec les gens.
Sì. Vabbè, però lo facciamo.
It's newer, more modern, right?
It's basically
What's your first impression of it?
It's brighter.
Much brighter, right? Good. This, believe it or not, in 1822 was something impressive to add.
Are we going to circle back over?
Good job. Pausare così una cosa.
So at that time I promised myself I was not going to complain about crowds and not going to such as this, which looks very much like a bathtub. These are not for individual watering, but they are this place became more like an official.
Não tô falando mais? Absorb this beauty, the beauty especially, the knowledge, even a nose is something valuable, no? We have to preserve. Well, the animal you see peeping out from the base is an addition of a
가지고 만들었는지도 모르는 정보를 가지고 있습니다.
estimated that the city of Troy to be destroyed. They are killing the priest. Okay? Now, first of all, you can see this is the style of the Moses You can tell there's something behind the base triangle vessel. Could they? But not sure that they did that. But it was commissioned by Nero. Now, you later.
geliyor. 완전 뜨거워.
So.
And the hangout, you see a couple of Egyptian statues. You go there, you go here, in Rome, usually cross quite the
Ah, bueno.
Dit zagen we net ook al. Het is eigenlijk alsof dat Athena beeld op hier van de
So these are the stories of Peter and Paul.
I remind you that all the tapestries were woven.
Rockford Museum, and then they send him but then they go send him back to where so when they send
Do you know what the rest of
Okay, guys, if you're at the hat, you wanna wait because now there's like another room or
Tarazzi e candelabri.
Ah, beh, grazie. Sì, sì.
Scratchy or itchy?
Anda, que me han esperado. ¿Ahí hay otra sala? ¿Hay una sala? Vamos a seguir para otro.
Thank you.